Everything is Awesome is part of Courts and Parts, a podcast network featuring pop culture, TV, movie, and geek podcasts. Check out some of our other shows, like TV Ate My Brain, Let's Chat with Revelin Friends, and Podstalgic at courtsandparts.com.
Awesome. Just tell people they're awesome and mean it.
Awesome.
Did you have an awesome time? Did you drink awesome shooters and listen to awesome music and then just sit around and soak up each other's awesomeness?
Awesome. That was awesome.
You guys are awesome.
No, you're awesome.
No, you are awesome.
Sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to this week's edition of Everything is Awesome. I am your host, Kev, and this is the show where we sit down and talk to awesome people about awesome things. And this week's show is a great one. Back at the point of me recording this pre-intro, at least, many months ago, not many months ago, I guess it was like 3 months ago, we did the second annual Everything is Awesome Let's F Cancer Podiversary Festival. That's a mouthful, and I believe for the third one we'll be changing the name slightly. Anyway, we had a great lineup of shows. We added an extra show, and in the process of booking this festival, we had one of the shows drop out, and as the last minute grab, I contacted this show called Just Grubbin, and they were fantastic. I loved them. I think I guested on the show briefly during the festival, talking about bologna with the whole crew, including Big Al, I was standing next to at the time. But the guy who I guess is the man in charge of, or runs a lot of the business aspects of Just Grubbin, is Lauren Biddle. And, you know, he is a very, very cool person who I knew when I first talked to him when he first got to the festival, because email is so hard to read, people and whatnot. But, like, being able to see him in person and chat with him and whatnot, I just knew he was a cool person. I knew I needed him to be a guest on this show, and we made it happen. And I really enjoyed having a sober conversation with Lauren here, and I hope you enjoy it too. Before I kick it over to Kevin Lauren of the past, I want to chat about some housekeeping things, and that's very simply, very quickly, you can find us on social media, facebook.com and twitter.com at RealAwesomePod. You can also find us on Instagram at AwesomePodcast. You can find me on Twitter at ThatNerdyKev, and of course we're on AwesomePodcast.com. And make sure, if you want to help support this show, there are 3 key ways to do it. Number one, and just because it's the first one I'm thinking of, is the Patreon, patreon.com/thatentertains. Not only supports this show and That's Entertainment, but the entire That's Entertainment podcast network, where our goal is to cover some hosting fees and then just build up a little safety net emergency fund for the shows that may need new microphones or just new equipment or whatever. And maybe even some advertising budgets and whatnot. That's a great way to support us. Subscribing through our Patreon gets you early access to all our shows, including Everything is Awesome, even though it's part of the Court Temp Arts podcast network. It's the That's Entertainment production, so it gets early access through that. And you also get bonus content and additional exclusive audio that you're not going to hear anywhere else. And we're in the process of reshaping it still now that we're getting caught up on audio, but it's just a really cool, neat way to help support us. Less than a cup of coffee a day will support us, and it means the world to us, and I don't think you're going to miss that $1 or $2. $12 a year, bro, as me and Jason Ashley from Too Cool for Tabletop used to say. So, if now, obviously, I understand not everyone can do the money thing. So, iTunes reviews. If you go to iTunes, whether you're on an iPhone or not, you can download iTunes on your computer. You go to iTunes and leave a 5-star text review. That Apple math helps us get in front of more ears, and the more ears listening to us means the bigger and cooler things that we can do, more opportunities like con appearances, which is like one of my 2018 goals that is slowly not, as we're running out of cons to participate at. It's not going to happen maybe this year, but that's my goal for 2018 is a con appearance. I think that would be a lot of fun. And, live shows and just cool things like that. And, of course, word-of-mouth recommendations, which are free for nothing, not even your time, except for saying, hey, buddy, listen to this podcast, or throwing on a podcast while you're driving with someone and put on Everything is Awesome. All those ways are just great ways to help support this show. And it would mean the world to me, and I know it would mean the world to Mike as well for the That's Entertainment portion side of it. So that's it for now. Let's throw it over to Kev and Lauren of the past so that they can tell you what's up with their conversation. It was a good one. I'm about to leave 33 behind in July.
It's our resurrection year.
What?
Yeah. Look it up.
Okay. I will. That will be a post show. Now that we're finally recording this thing and we're finally in the thick of it, I'll tell you what, that's the first time that I've actually experienced an issue where, like, refreshing the page and I don't even want to say we've never had to swap a mic out before. Usually just the page refresh works.
I was impressed. That last episode I heard of Everything is Awesome that you recorded from like a parking lot.
Oh my
God.
God.
Podcasting skills, dude.
Oh my, it doesn't sound, I guess it doesn't sound too bad. Like there are a couple.
I was enjoying it.
Thank you. There were a couple spots that where you could hear like that generic like VoIP dip. Yeah. I was pretty impressed. It was a pain in the butt to edit, though. It was not as bad as a round table with 6 people, but it was one of the more heavier edited episodes.
Oh, well, I couldn't tell. You got skills again.
It's, you know what? Well, being like, so podcasting for me has been going on since 2007, and it has evolved to the point where like I use programs like this to do my interviews, because it's a mix of locals, which really are a bunch of Philadelphia people who I don't want to force. I live in Levittown, so I'm about 45 minutes north.
Yeah.
So I don't like, my studio is not set up. I kind of tore that apart so I could redo it. But B, like, I don't want to force people to drive up here to do it. And then like a lot of guests that are on the West Coast, like, so like, man, it's literally like the easiest thing to do.
What a flex. A lot of guests on the West Coast. What a flex.
Well, they're not like,
flex.
They're like other podcasts.
I'm over here just trying to get guys down the street, and you're just like, yeah, people on the West Coast. What a flex.
Well, so I did want to ask you about this because I saw you promoting episode 11 today as your season 2 finale. So how do you guys do? Well, first and foremost, let's get into what brought you to podcasting. You're like your superhero origin point into how you became a podcaster.
Well, I got bit by a black ass spider. Nah, from what I understand, you work an office job in a cubicle, right?
Yes.
All right. So as you know, there's only so much to fill the time during an 8-hour day.
Yes.
And I used to listen to ESPN Radio Live. And I'm going to tell you the exact point when I started getting into podcasting.
Okay.
The Tim Tebow mania.
Oh, okay.
While I was trying to listen to ESPN, and I got fed up, and I was like, God, there has to be something else that's going on. And then I listened to like my first podcast just off. I forgot, maybe something on Twitter, but I clicked on a link and I was like, oh, this is great. And then, as you know, what the best part about podcasting is, networking. So I
Yeah.
heard somebody, Deezus and Merrill were on like a Taxstone podcast. So then I listened to Deezus and Merrill's podcast. And then that went to me listening to other podcasts. And you know what I mean? And it just started
Yeah.
the ball rolling. And next thing you know, I'm setting up playlists for an 8-hour day. And
Yeah.
I'm getting mad at people if they don't post a podcast on a regular schedule.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm not that guy. Like, I used to be on a schedule, and I got so far behind just from the month of January, like really burning me out as like putting on that live show that you guys graciously accepted last minute.
Very dope experience.
So what made, because we're going to get to that live show and you doing podcasting in a second, but what led to you saying, all right, I'm going to listen to podcasts 8 hours a day, to I'm going to podcast it myself?
Well, I always wanted to get into the podcast game, and me and a couple of my friends tried a couple different things, and I'm a creative person, and I also know what sucks. So like, we were sitting down just shooting the shit, and we were doing what everybody else was doing, and I was like, I'm not feeling it. And they used to get mad at me because I'm like, I used to bail all the time. And they're like, oh, we want to record tonight. And I'm like, yeah, I think this shit sucks, so I'm not. But we needed the right topic to be, as you've been doing this for 10 plus years, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And you have a lane.
Yeah.
You have to have a lane. You can't just do what everybody else is doing in podcasting because everybody and their mom has a podcast now.
Yeah, yeah.
So my boy Jamil hit me up about the whole food blog shit, and I was like, that sounds like a great idea. And I said, yo, we should do a podcast with it. Not a lot of people are doing that. And started the ball rolling. We were recording in the living room. Then we got with Wildfire, and now we're did a live show with you.
Yeah, so it's, and I will say, like, me, I'm kind of like, I understand that mindset of like, well, everyone's doing this type of podcast, so like, why wouldn't I? Why would I? But I'm also like, I love, that's actually my favorite style of podcast, where it's just a bunch of friends sitting around talking, because that reminds me of like, really, that's like grassroots version of Smodcast with Kevin Smith and Scott Mosier.
Yep.
So I really enjoy those. That's where a lot of my early stuff was. But my early stuff, of course, was 10 years ago, 10 and a half years ago, when really no one had a podcast. So what we were doing was
Such
still
an OG, Kev.
Yeah.
I gotta bow down, Crip walk in front of you.
No. It's that I throw that 10 years around a lot, but there was like
every time you say it when I listen to one of your shows, I'm like, God damn, dude, you've been doing.
Yeah.
So you've been doing this. I didn't even know what a podcast was 10 years ago, and
Yeah.
you're out here just getting it. But yeah,
it's amazing how there's still so few people who know what a podcast is in 2018.
Yeah.
Obviously, the numbers are a lot higher because of Serial and S-Town and shows like that have really kind of popularized podcasting. And I knew podcasting made it when did you watch any of the Scream television show?
yes.
So I actually really enjoyed the first season. I thought I was going to hate it because I'm a big fan of those movies. But
it's like our high school years, man. You said you're the same age, so yeah, that's our that was to the movie with your girlfriend and a couple friends. Yeah, go ahead.
Scream, and to me, like, I wasn't like I actually really love horror now, but when we were in high school, I wasn't like I still to this day have yet to see Halloween.
Really?
So yeah.
Are we gonna do a podcast on?
We can. We totally can.
Yeah, you watching Halloween? What's up, bro?
We totally can. And like The Thing. I just watched that within the last 6 to 8 months for the first time. And so, as much as I love horror, I didn't really get into it until Scream. Like, Scream not only like kind of reinvented that horror franchise,
the whole genre,
the whole genre. It also was my entry point into it, and it's just taken me. I never really had an interest to go back and watch all the old classics because I was just so impressed with the new stuff. But now,
Scream was dope because it literally talked to our class of our generation. Like they were partying, they were doing all this, and then you got a serial killer just roaming around. Yeah.
And I thought like everything that that first movie did, right? And I enjoyed all of them, even like the third and fourth one.
I did. I thought I was the only one.
No, I enjoyed all of them. Obviously, like the first one and I think even the second one are like they're just really good. And I think the fourth one did a good job at trying to capitalize on the millennial generation or whatever, like the 20-year-olds of the time.
As they should, though.
Yeah, and it was. I don't think it nailed it like the original Scream did, but I think what did nail was that first season of the Scream television show. I think I had a lot of doubt going into it because it's like, well, does this really work in a television show? And they nailed it, I think. And I haven't seen the second season or the third season, if there's been a third season, but the Scream TV show was like when the reporter was a podcaster, I knew that podcasting, like it's obviously it's made an impact with somebody, that it's a thing on popular culture TV now.
I keep trying to tell people, and at first they didn't get it, but now everybody's starting to understand now that I'm putting them on in our blog circle.
Mm-hmm.
But podcasting is going to take over radio completely. They don't get it. My sister is in high school. No, she's college, but they don't listen to radio. They don't listen to commercials. They don't. Podcasting is where it's at. They download podcasts and they make a playlist and they just ride that out. And that's what I'm trying to tell people. You need to be on the ground floor of this, because if you're good at it, you never, you know what I mean? You never know what can happen with it.
Exactly. And it's, for me, I realized that it's, unless my phone's dead, the only time I listen to regular radio is when my phone's dead, or during this whole, for, being in Philly, the week or two leading up to the Super Bowl and a week or two after the Super Bowl.
I'll do that. But mostly because of the phone calls.
I mean, definitely during and I don't really listen to it during the day because I'm at my desk, and I know I could easily pop it on the live stream or whatever, but like I really dig 97.5.
Yes.
And I really dig the morning show.
Yep.
I take my lunch at 3:00 in the afternoon because
bro, Kev, let me find out me and you are the same fucking. I take my shit as late as possible.
it's when I started the job that I'm at. I had my buddy, he worked there, and I would like call him up around noon and be like, "Hey, you want to go to lunch?" He's like,
"Yep."
Well, yeah, but normally I go at 3. I'm like, 3? What? And then he got me hooked, and it's great.
It sounds outrageous at first till you realize, oh yeah, it shortens the fuck out of my day.
It's taking it at 3, because especially like I tend to like have heavier projects, or I'm just sitting there listening to a podcast. So like my day moves by pretty quick as it is, and then when I'm done my lunch, by the time I get back, I have maybe an hour left of work. So it makes the end of the day just wonderful.
One of the jobs I was working for was an internet company. They gave you they're real free with your time and whatnot, and they gave you the option when you want to take your lunch. I promise you, Kev, I took a lunch at like 4:00 and left at 5. They were like, "You're really gonna hold out to 4?" I was like, "Yeah, that's no problem for me."
And that's what everyone says to me. They're like, "You're waiting till 3? How do you do it?" I was like, "Well, I mean, I eat at my desk. Like, I eat at noon."
That's another thing. You can snack. Why do you guys not understand that?
Yeah. It's like I typically have my lunch eaten by the time 3:00 rolls around, and then at 3:00, like if I'll either go in my car and record commercials or pre-intros or outros or something.
Your podcast is so legit. I was listening to the last episode and I was like, man, we got to step our game up.
Well, thank you. That's a compliment.
Kev got the opener. He got an opening song. He got opening intro. He got opening commercials. Our shit is just a funky ass, just grubbing his assholes. Welcome to the Just Grubbin podcast.
Well, so I'll tell you what. You hit the first hurdle of 10 episodes. That's a big big like feat to hit. Like there's a crazy stat out there. I was talking to somebody today about it, who wants to get into podcasts, and I said, listen, you told me what your hurdles are. Like I'll help you. I'll eliminate those hurdles for you. But here's 2 hurdles I'm going to give you that are challenges, and that's get to 10 episodes. Because out of every podcast that's out there that starts with episode 1, I think it's like 50% of them or something like that get to 10 episodes. And out of all those podcasts, about maybe 50% of them reach 50 episodes. So to hit 10 episodes, like you should absolutely like celebrate that. You should celebrate 25. Like you stop celebrating in increments of 25 when you hit episode 100 is my theory.
Yeah.
So,
and also I feel like you low key had it harder than I had, because you were doing it 10 years ago. I can only imagine when you were telling people, like, yo, podcast, this and that. They're probably like, Kev, get the fuck out of my face. And me, we just started this summer, and they were still looking at me like, Lauren, I swear to God, if you don't get the fuck out of my face. I'm like, guys, I promise you this is gonna be the move. And now they all understand it now. Like, for example, Big Al, you saw Big Al, you met Big Al. Yeah. He didn't understand all the shit at first. Now he's a star low key. And I'm like, yeah, I told you, dog.
Well, and it really is like 10 years ago. Every conversation, I promise you, was, hey, I host a podcast. It's like an internet radio show. Right. But do you want to be a guest? And
people were probably like, what the fuck?
it was very hard to podcasting, and the way we did it. So the first show I ever did was, and I'll try to keep this brief for my audience.
No, don't even keep it brief. I want to know the whole story, because I listened to your last show, and then you said you fell out with your producer, and I almost like emailed you and said, nah, I want the whole story. I want the tea, Kevin.
So the first podcast, Happy Hour with Steel Tip, lasted I think 17 or 18 episodes, and I did nothing but show up and talk into a microphone. I was.
This is when you were doing your wrestling, right?
Yeah. Well, I had I stopped wrestling at that point because I broke my ankle in February of 2007, so 11 years ago. Actually, I as I'm looking at the date on my computer, I want to say it was 11 years ago to the day right now. That I broke my ankle, like shattered it straight
Happy
across.
Anniversary.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, everyone's got some weird anniversary. And so that took me out of wrestling for a long while, just because by the time it healed and whatnot, I had kind of fallen out from that group. And they were just doing their thing, and I was trying to figure out my life and what I wanted to do, and I started podcasting, and I used that wrestling name, Steel Tip, to be, I don't know, it's when you're 20, let's see, 11 years, I was 22 years old, so when you're 20 in your early 20s, you have a big old ego, and that's kind of what
you're telling me.
That's what led to the downfall of that show. Like I forget exactly what happened, but something happened.
Kev, tell me you pulled a Bobby Brown and you were just like walking in the studio slapping people and just
no.
like, yo guys, I'm going 3 hours a day. Like, what?
Well, so the original format for the show that I followed for years was a 2-hour show that was like 10 to 15 minute segments, something like that, with 5 commercial breaks that were 5 minutes long, and the commercial breaks were literally like just bits and just songs that we probably illegally should have been playing. And but it was like, do you remember, I love when I talk to someone that's from this area that seems to be into radio a little bit. Do you remember Matt and Huggy on the Free FM days?
I don't. But
okay.
They sound like somebody I need to know about.
So do you remember when YSP went to Free FM, like right after Stern left?
Yes.
So they had a blind, like and this was when I was working overnights and traveling for work. So it was like the early days of podcasting. So I had the Smodcast I listened to. It was the only podcast I listened to then. So I filled the rest of it up with podcast versions of Free FM.
Let me pause you real quick, Kev.
Yeah.
So when you started off, you were like me. You only listened to one podcast.
Yep.
I feel like everybody does the same thing. You binged one podcast, right?
Yep.
I did the same shit, and then I was like, all right, what do I got to do with the rest of my day? And then I realized there's a lot of talented people out there. All right,
Yeah.
continue. I'm sorry.
And well, and
It's
10
so funny we did the same thing.
well, and 10 years or 11 years, 10 and a half years ago, whatever it was, Smodcast was like, there was only a handful of podcasts, and really I didn't want to listen to anyone else. So I listened to Smodcast, and I started listening. I want to say this month is their 11th year anniversary for Smodcast. So, I've been listening pretty regularly for the last 11 years. But back 11 years ago, it was literally like the only thing. So I would take, I think back then there was still, they called them webcasts, and you could download Kid Chris, you could download Opie and Anthony, Matt and Huggy, and all, whoever. And Free FM I loved their block. For a while it was Bonaducci in the morning, Barsky mid-mornings, Matt and Huggy afternoons, Matt and Huggy mid-afternoons, and then Kid Chris late afternoon to early evening. And Matt and Huggy was a 2-hour program that basically did like news, sports, entertainment, and an interview and like one other segment. And that's what we did. We literally just took that staple, that blueprint, and did it ourselves. And I did that for the first probably 5 years of podcasting. And
how did it go?
I've been lucky enough to have different degrees of success. I would say Everything Is Awesome is what I feel most successful at, even though it is the least listenership.
Again, your opener alone lets me know you're successful, sir.
Well, thank you.
I created my John, and it sounds like I created my John. Yours is hella professional. Like, you sound to ABC Studios and shit.
Well, and that comes with 10 years and 10 and a half years of like just figuring. Like, honestly, I'll even go as far to say since I started Everything Is Awesome is where I really learned how to become. And I don't want to say become an audio engineer, because I'm not. But if there's like an intern level of that, that's what
You say you're not, but I heard you, and excuse the name, it's slipping my mind, but I know it was the Take Two podcast.
Yeah, correct.
You guys started getting into technical talk, and I'm no shit, you Kev. I was at work, and I was like, should I know some of the shit that he's saying? I was like, because if he brings any of this up to me, I'm like, look, Kev, I record, I say what I say, and it is what it is.
Well, and that's, but that's the beautiful thing about podcasting is that it is simple enough to literally just hit record and then go from there and learn. And I fully support that method. I mean, I can show you the first episode of a podcast I've ever recorded, and by show you I mean let you listen to it, and it's awful. Like, I don't know what we were thinking. I was in none of us were in the same room.
I tell people all the time, don't listen to episode 1.
Well, and so none of us were in the same room, and remote podcasting 11 years, 10 and a half years ago wasn't this easy. It was basically this, except using Google Hangouts, and the audio quality. I don't know if you remember VoIP. But it basically sounded like, I'm not going to name where we were before we were in this session that we're in right now, but the last session page that we were in, and you sounded like you were in auto-tune and underwater and whatnot.
Well, that's because I was trying to record the album, and you just keep leaking the tracks, Kev. I mean, keep some shit between me and you.
I try. So I mean, my producer at the time, he sat at his house, and he had his computer that was recording everything, and then he had a mixer set up that had his computer for he had a computer in that had my Hangout or Skype connection. My co-host had a dedicated computer at his office for his Skype and Hangout session. And then he had a sound computer to play sounders and commercials. So he had 3 or 4 computers set up to record a podcast because we were all remote. Me and my co-host were remote, and our guest was remote. I don't even know. It blows my mind that this all happened because
I was just about to say the fact that y'all pulled that off.
And if I'm being honest, like the setup that I had in my studio, which is my shed, but in my studio before I tore it apart was something similar where I had my desktop to record the audio, and then I have a sound computer to play sound bites if I want to play sound bites, which I'm never going to do. I don't do that kind of podcast anymore, so I'm never going to do that. But then I also have like a computer set up for interviews, like if someone wants to Skype in or something. So it's similar, and I know I can refine that, and that's kind of like my 2018 goal when I remodel my studio is to refine the in studio setup so that it's
make sure you have a sturdy enough seat for Big Al.
I need to. I'm so nervous.
Just reinforce it.
I'm so nervous that it's going to be, after I finish it off, it's going to be pretty small because I want to put like a nice table in there.
What did he tell you?
Okay, so so that tangent is, so I want to say the falling out with my producer had something to do. I think it actually had something to do with Falls Township Wrestling, which was the organization.
Oh, Kev, please tell me that the beef over your producer was over y'all wrestling.
Well,
Kev, I promise you. I promise you, I'm going to have your side regardless. You invited your boy out for their first live show. You supported. You told us that you loved our show. So I'm always going to have your back. But if you tell me that this beef was over y'all wrestling, you take it to another level of me respecting you, dog.
So here, this is my memory of it, and it could be way off. But my memory of it was, I don't even think I was wrestling at the time, but I was still really protective of Falls Township Wrestling because I helped start that company. And
you
I believe
a lot of shit, dude.
I did. I'm a starter. I'm not a finisher.
Yeah, I'm about to
starter.
say, goddamn, Kev.
I started, and I wasn't just me. I was one of like
My
5
bad
people
for
that
cursing
started
so much, by the way. I don't know what your normal audience is.
Oh, it's explicit. This is an explicit podcast. They know what to expect.
Cool. It's my birthday. Tell them to understand.
Yeah, you should be a little rowdy today.
Yeah.
So it was me and like 5 other guys that like started this up, and we took it from the backyard. We purchased a ring and we made it legit. We had a license. You need a license to wrestle in the state of Pennsylvania. So it was a very legit organization that we had started up. And my memory is telling me that he snaked the website from us, and he did something else. Like I got a phone call from one of the other guys. It was like, hey, your boy did this. And I was like, huh. And I could be way off base here because it's been 11 years, but I want to say that's what it was. And I was, so like, I just sent an email the day of a recording and said, by the way, I'm not going to be there today. And I basically took my ball. I pulled a Steve Austin. I took my ball and went home.
Yeah, I like your style.
And it's cause him and I made up, and years later, he contracted me to be a co-host on his podcast.
That's the thing about dudes. I was just talking to my brother's fiance, and I was like, guys, we kind of get over beef within like 3 days or so, and if it's extended, it's maybe a couple months, and then we're like, what were we mad at each other for?
Yeah, and I would say there was because when I left that podcast, I started my own up. They started their own up. My producer and the other guy, and then me and my co-host, we started our own thing, and like we kind of had like a podcast war going on, but not like. Nothing serious, but nothing like.
Was this Everything Is Awesome, or was this different?
No. This was called Creepcast. This show, So
I feel like I'm interviewing you, me, but that's great. Tell me about Creepcast.
Creepcast was literally just Happy Hour with a Steel Tip, but I didn't have another name for it because I was not allowed to use Happy Hour, so we just called it that, and that lasted for a couple months. I have a lot of shows that were only a couple months long. It wasn't until. I have a handful of shows that have lasted for the test of time. I have the first show that I started on my own that lasted any amount of time was the new version of Happy Hour, and that's when me and I would say it was probably about 2 or 3 years after the initial podcast started that like me and the producer were like, I messaged him and said, hey man, like I don't really know what happened. Like, I'm sorry. I know that we're probably both partially, to blame here. So I'm going to take the first step and say, I'm sorry. And I shouldn't have walked out on the podcast, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I want to start something up again, but I want to do it under the name Happy Hour. So I just want to get the blessing from you to do that. And that podcast lasted for 100 and I think like 70 some episodes before.
Podcasting machine, bro.
It's so I was doing that, and then I would say a couple months into doing that podcast, my former producer who I got the blessing from to use it, he asked me if I would be willing to help him out because he needed a new co-host and he wasn't sure who he's going to get, and he's like, I'm going to contract you out for 5 weeks until I find somebody, and that turned into I think 200 episodes that I co-hosted on. And those two shows were definitely the longest running shows I was part of. They definitely had the most listeners. Like they were doing, at this time we had graduated to live streaming. I don't know. Do you remember a service called Stickcam?
No. Like I said, there's a lot of things you mentioned in the last episode I listened to of Everything is Awesome.
Okay.
That I was like, this dude Kev has been podcasting for a long time.
I could talk about every.
He's speaking a different language than I am.
So Stickcam is
you actually helped me out because with some of the live show shit, I'm like, oh, I'm happy he said all this because now I know don't do that and do this and don't
Yeah. Well, Stickcam was, at the time, it's no longer a service that's around anymore, but it was basically like the best live streaming utility out there. It was the YouTube of live streaming. And so we were live streaming our shows through that. And so we were getting like anywhere from 10 to 20,000 hits an hour. And so they're definitely the most popular shows I was part of. The Zomcast, which is in the process of rebooting yet again for the 6th or 7th time. That's once I start that back up in the next couple of days here, as of this recording at least, I'm hoping that by the time this airs, it's already out there again. But that is technically the longest running podcast I have years wise, because that started in 2010, I believe. Whenever.
What? You never said your origin. I'm sure you have on previous episodes, but I guess I'm not caught up on what made you actually start the whole podcast movement.
So okay, this goes back to high school.
You see how I flipped this interview, though?
Yeah, you did flip it. You're doing the bit that I've always said I was going to do. I always said I just want to be the guest that goes on other people's shows and flips it on them.
I'm flipping it all on him. He's got to ask me all the questions.
So
what's up? When did you start this thing?
So the passion started in senior year of high school. Me and my buddy.
So you always I'm always jealous of you guys, man. So you knew in high school that you wanted to get into this shit.
Well, I knew that I wanted to be a broadcaster.
Radio. I'm saying radio. Like, obviously, I'm not going to say podcasting because that
did not exist.
Yeah, I was going to say because, bro, like, we were still on AIM. Like, that wasn't that wasn't a thing. Yeah. But you knew that you wanted. See, I get so mad at people and they don't understand why. And I'm like, I was told I had to play ball. If I knew I had another route, then I would went another route. Because playing football is, if you make it and you still have your brain cells about you, cool. But 95% of the time, it's a waste of your fucking time. But nobody ever tells you that. Hey, kids that's listening, go to school. Because you just end up with CTE like me, and you find out about podcasting around 30. And that's not what's up. But...
I want to say YSP at the time in our senior year of high school was like running this thing where like you could submit a tape, and
you were so on it, Kev. I'm so jealous of you.
and you could be like a DJ, and we didn't do it. But I was like.
I thought you did. I was about to say, Kev, I'm so jealous of you, dog.
No, my buddy who was going to do it with me, we just never like found the time. We lazy teenagers is what it ended up being.
Right.
So when I want to say me and my producer from my original show, we have two different stories. I said that he posted something on MySpace at the time because that was the big social media giant. And he said, he said that, hey, I'm looking to, produce a podcast. Who wants to host it? And I said I did, but his version of it is I said, hey, I want to host a podcast. Who wants to help me? So I'm not sure exactly how the podcast started, but it did basically, like, my origin point. I've always had a passion for it, like in high school.
Sorry about that.
Not a problem.
Sneezing fit.
I've had plenty of those on shows, so it's no problem at all.
That's another part about your interview that I thought was interesting. You don't do it, you said, but old boy from Take Two. I'm sorry, I'm not disrespecting him. I just his name. Go ahead, drop that for me real quick.
Yep.
What's his name?
Oh, Craig.
Craig. He said that they edited out the uhs and ohs, and I'm like, see, I don't even think about shit like that.
No. And to me, it can be distracting, but
if it's too much, I do
Yes.
agree with that.
Yes.
But I feel like when you were like, yeah, man, like it's part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Because if you're just giving me a straight convo and you're just all the way just there, like you said, it might not feel natural. I don't know.
Yeah, it's I've tried doing that in the past. I used to be a heavy editor, and it was doing the shows live on Stickcam that that taught me to not do that, because I already aired it once live with the way it was. So why would I cut out all this stuff to make it sound perfect? And maybe that's just me being a lazy podcaster, and I wholly admit that that's me being lazy, but I think it makes sense.
You're a lazy podcaster. You know more about this shit than I've fucking.
Well, so and I want to get into it. So the first live show you did was the one that you did for the Everything is Awesome Let's F Cancer Podiversary show.
Yeah, I got an email. I felt special, and then you told us we were just replacing somebody, and I was like, "Whoa, Kev."
No,
Just
but
lie to me, baby. Just say that you listened to our show and you enjoyed it. Jeez.
I loved the live show. I definitely enjoyed that aspect of it, and I will admit here, as I admit to all my guests, I purposely wait until I have the one-on-one interview before I ever go and listen to your podcast, because I like to learn in the conversation.
I'm fucking with you. I mean, it is what it is. But I always tell people all we need is ears. I think me and my friends are funny as shit.
No,
it's just up to y'all to listen to it.
It's I agree, and it's I feel the same way when it comes to, like, I don't care, like, I don't pay attention to numbers at all. Like, I have stats that I can look at, and I'll glance at them once in a while, but at the end of the day, like, I just do it for me. And if someone comments and says, "Whoa, man, I really did not like when you did this," I'll, like, take that into consideration.
But the fact that they listened and they had enough comment to say that to you is how what I look at it as, like, oh, that means you fuck with it. So
yeah, exactly.
Why would you feel the need to hit me up about that then?
Yeah. No, yeah. So how does Just Grubbin, which is your podcast, we have yet to name drop it.
Oh yeah, hey guys, Just Grubbin podcast, Lauren Biddle, holla at your boy.
So that, and I do love, while I do love a good podcast that's just a bunch of friends sitting around talking, my big thing now is I really like actual play, like tabletop D&D podcasts. But there is the small, like, I only know one other podcaster that does, like, a food podcast. And he was also, it was Brian Durkin from Full Belly Laughs.
Yeah.
It was part of the show. So, like, it is, like, I think a section, at least in Philadelphia, I should say, it's an underrepresented genre of podcasting.
Well, you'd be surprised because I guess it depends on how you do it, but with us, we're just we're being ourselves, and we're doing food news, and then also doing places we've tried on the show. That's our format, and I'm getting hit up in places by people in Australia. You know the power of podcasting.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're getting hit up by people in Cali and North Dakota and Australia, and you're like, oh shit, you guys really listen. Because again, I feel like you. I'm just doing this. Like,
Yeah,
I'm doing it like whatever. If you guys listen, you listen. But I just want to have fun with my friends, low key.
So if I remember, like when I was looking you guys up to email you and figure out what your contact was, it seems like you did like a handful of episodes for what you call season 1, like 7 episodes.
Yeah.
So this is a 2-point question. Season 1, if I'm gathering it right, was pre Wildfire.
No.
No. Okay. Oh,
That was
okay.
Wildfire.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So was Just Grubbing ever not on Wildfire?
Yeah, we started the old Just Grubbin podcast. You can look it up. I had to change the name on, what's that, SoundCloud? Yeah, I had to change the name on SoundCloud to old Just Grubbin podcast because shit was showing up as the same thing.
Yeah.
And we recorded that in the living room of the crib.
Okay.
Then, because we started the blog in May, we started doing the podcast in like July. And that's when we were like, all right. And they still weren't getting it. They weren't understanding the whole podcast. And you understand the power of a podcast. They don't get it. So I'm like, guys, I'm telling you, if we do this the right way, this is going to help our brand, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, we're in contact with Wildfire. We're signing the contract. And then we do the Wildfire radio thing in September. And that's when we started season 1. And then season 1 ended in October? December? Yeah, December. Yeah.
Okay. So because that's interesting because like I've never done a podcast by seasons really. Like I'm kind of formatting. Kev.
You've been doing podcasts for 10 years. There's no such thing as seasons. Just let your boys be goofy, man. I decided one day, I woke up and I told everybody in the group chat, yo, this is the end of season 1 of our podcast. And they all agreed. It was like 4 episodes. I was like, bet. And then we decided we were going forward. We would just do that going forward. Because I think podcasting, as you said, everybody can have one.
Yeah.
It's all about how you do it. I feel like this gives us a unique, funny aspect to it. Okay. Like you just you could drop 3 episodes and be like, all right, well, that's the end of season 3. Like what?
Okay. So it's a marketing thing. I love it. I dig it.
Yeah, just cause we want to. Why not?
I love that there's no reason to.
And there's no absolute reason at all, bro. It's just.
Because I saw that. Did you take a break in between season 1 and 2 at all?
It was like an episode. It was like a week.
Because I saw that and I was like, season 2. Like I feel like they just started.
Yeah, it was literally like 2 weeks, and I was like, "Well, welcome back, fellas," and yeah, we did that whole thing.
So doing it with I know Wildfire stream. Do they stream your show live?
Yeah, we do live. And
okay.
That seems to be problematic sometimes.
Because I haven't streamed live in a very long time, so it's I love the idea of it, and I've been trying to find a good way.
We get a lot of listeners live. Shout out to our live listeners. We just Kev, you was at our live show. That wasn't a show, bro. That was us. That's just what we do. And yeah, sometimes our engineers, they have to tell us, like, relax. Like, I don't know if your listeners, if you don't know, Just Grubbin podcast, you can search Just Grubbin, we'll show up. We're out there. Yeah.
It's, and
we're going to have Kevin on the show, by the way. But anyway, continue.
I'll tell you, and you guys go to the Wildfire Studios to record your show?
Us and you, sir. But yes, continue.
Well, so because I've been there. I actually they live streamed our first year that we did that festival that you were part of, and I was trying. Tattooed Moms has terrible.
Tattooed Moms is pretty dope, bro.
Oh, I love Tattoo Moms, but they're upstairs they don't get Wi-Fi, and the personal hotspot. It was a very. I had a lot of issues getting it set up at my show.
You did everything yourself. That's why. That's why I keep trying to tell you. You got your boy here to help you now, man. We out here.
Well,
Kev.
it's Well, I'll tell you what. It's I still I still have not recovered from January.
You held a performance for cancer research and benefit by yourself, dude. A podcast festival.
Yes.
People don't even still fuck with podcasts like that. So again, you did the Lord's work, Kevin. You did it by yourself. I understand, man. Like
It's
people don't understand. People listening right now to Everything Is Awesome. Please understand that your host is the man, and he really did some shit for a good cause by himself, and he was declining help left and right. I tried to help him multiple times, and he was just taking care of everything. You the man, Kev.
I don't even remember that because I was so wasty pants. I to the point where I was like I still haven't had a drink since then. I was like I need to do the next live show 100% sober.
That's how you know shit's real, isn't it? When you have to take a break, you're just like, yo, give me a couple months.
And my issue, I had a lot of stuff going on outside of Everything Is Awesome. And specifically, but it was still in the podcasting world, but outside of Everything Is Awesome, I had some stuff going on that put me in a sour mood. And then there was a particular group for that festival that was supposed to do some heavy promoting for us, and they did not. Like I had a feeling they didn't going into the event, and I confirmed it the day after.
Can I tell you the truth?
What's that?
You don't know us like that, but I was really offended that you didn't let us help promote that a lot further than we could have, because we just had our second live show because of you, and we murdered that shit and packed the bar out, and I thought to myself, if Kevin lets us help, we can pack these shits out. You gotta let us help, bro.
I'll tell you.
Let us help.
I'll tell you, it's definitely. I need to sit down and go over what my podcasting professional life, I guess, is what I'll say.
I understand.
But yeah, it's no, and I don't know why I would say I don't need your help if I did say
Kev,
that.
I'm telling you. No, you didn't say that. I'm just saying because again, I don't like to admit this because I like to tell my crew that we were invited straight up, but we were last second invite because we're new kids on the block. But I thought to myself as everything was going on, I'm like, man, if Kev only understood the marketing that we have, because me, my brother, and Big Al and everybody, we can pack some places out, man. You just gotta let us know ahead of time.
Yeah.
Now you know.
Yeah, totally. And it's well, like I said, I wanted to book a show for March, and I haven't yet because I'm not 100% happy with the performance that my show had at the festival. And
it was funny as hell, Kev. You yourself.
Well, thank you. And I agree
Can I tell the truth? I'm not saying any names. I didn't laugh that hard at a lot of shows, dog. Your show actually made me, Al, and everybody laugh. We don't laugh at a lot of things.
Well,
it was really funny.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and that's a big help for me when I finally, because like I'm so far behind on posting episodes, all because like I'm dreading listening to that. I'm not going to even listen to it. I've decided it's like I'm just gonna throw my pre-intro up, throw my outro on, and just throw it up there because it's already been out there for people to watch if they wanted to come to the show.
This. Have you ever listened to a past show and cringed at yourself?
Oh, most definitely.
Man, it's the worst, isn't it?
And usually when I'm editing, it's not a big deal. But the first live show we ever did with Everything Is Awesome was the 2016 Philadelphia Podcast Festival, and I was trying to do a 20-minute monologue. It was real rough.
Damn.
It was real rough.
Kev.
So I've learned since then, but like there's some things that I kind of want to change with how we do the live show, and I think I need to reinvent it.
Let us help you, bro. I'm telling you, we got ideas for this shit.
Well, and so I do want to ask you. So, how did your second live show come about? Like, did you book that like after you did it for the festival, or like leading up to the festival you already booked it?
Well, your festival was our first invitation to do a live show, and we had gotten talks before because people had heard our podcast and they're like, we think you guys should do a live show. It'd be really funny. But again, I had to convince my friends just to do a podcast because they don't know what the fuck a podcast is. Because and the greatest part is, until people go look at what Just Grubbin is, they're not going to get what's so funny. You know what's so funny. Because
Yeah.
me convincing Big Al and all of them, I'm like, dog, podcast, please. But they all get it now. They see the power of it. Because we had a lot of fucking listeners and downloads our first couple of months. And you invited us. And we got told about a lot of shit, but we still don't know how to go about it. You invited us. I was going to say no. And legit, one of our managers, she straight up said, no, just say yes. You can figure everything out later. And I was like, you know what? She's right. We're talented enough. We can figure it out later. And we went, and I told everybody. I think I told them a couple of days beforehand. And I said, yo, we got a live podcast to do. They didn't know anything about that. They were all like, okay. I was like, yeah, just show up. I'll figure everything else out. I'm the one that lays out, like, the game plan.
Yeah.
So we showed up, and I was so nervous, Kev. I don't know how you were your first live podcast. I was so nervous. I'm like, what if everybody thinks we suck?
Yeah.
And then I kept getting told, like, yo, no. You have to remember, you're just talking to your friends. If they don't like it, they don't like it. And I'm like, yeah, but it still can suck. But I listened to a couple of podcasts at first, and I'm like, all right, yeah, this is cool. And then I was like, yeah, I think we're pretty much up here with everybody else that's been here.
Yeah.
Then we got into it, and I was like, oh, this is comfortable. And then you helped out when you came out and danced with us and shit. And I was like, oh, no, this podcast and shit, this is just us talking to our friends. And if you like it, you like it, which they did. And that's when we got hit up by Dawson Street Pub about throwing another live festival.
Yeah, and I am one of my missions in the Philadelphia podcasting scene is, I say this as I'm on the brink of like, I don't know what I'm going to do for live shows anymore, but is to help make, New York and Chicago and LA are known as like the podcasting capitals. There's live shows there on a somewhat regular basis. I think the Philadelphia podcasting scene and community is the strongest community of podcasters out there.
No, I agree with you. Hold on, real quick. Kev, you're editing this shit later, right?
Doing a 2-hour show, that was a frequent problem.
I was going to add, all jokes aside, when you said you used to do 2-hour shows, I'm like, yeah, they must have took commercial breaks or some shit.
Yeah, well, and it was nice, going off topic, from your live show, for a while I helped rent out a studio in Warminster, where we would record our podcast. It was the old Centrifuge in Warminster, where like Neil Armstrong was there to train to be an astronaut.
You serious?
Yeah, it's a cool little.
Yo, why is your podcasting career so illustrious, dude? Fuck.
The
most I did is put Action Bronson in my cell phone. He's over here like podcast studio with Neil Armstrong and shit. All right, sorry. Talk to me, Kev. I'm gonna get your autograph after this shit. God damn.
We did have that was one of the main reasons we had commercial breaks, because we would, the one show that the Stabcast, which was what I was contracted out to do for my old producer.
When you say contracted, does that mean you was getting paid?
No, I mean not much, but yeah, it was. I got
Kev. Here's the thing, you gonna learn when you're talking to me. Even a slight flex is still a flex, baby. Talk that shit. You was getting paid to podcast. Talk that shit.
And every now and it hasn't happened in a while, but I left that show, and I think a year later I got a random check in the mail for like 3 pennies. And
What'd you do with them 3 pennies though?
I just ripped the check up. I called my friend. I was like, why did I just get a check for 3 cents? He's like, oh, we played one of your phone calls on the air, and that show I left before it went, but like I would say a month or 2 after I left, it was syndicated on Sirius XM for a little while. I don't know how long. I think up until the end. Yeah.
When you get syndicated, what's that? You don't get paid off of that either, or is it?
No,
Here's the thing, Kev. You're demoralizing me because everybody keeps telling us how they love our show and how we can do all these things. But then I listen to your podcast and I'm like, damn, dog, is he trying to tell me that we should stop this shit? Because
no. Making money is not the norm in podcasting.
No, I don't mean it that way. But you were, dog. Re-listen to your last episode. You made it sound like you had to be suicidal to start a podcast, and I was like, Jesus, Kev.
No. But yeah, like my producer did a lot of good things with his show, and he for a while he was talking about this Sirius XM deal, and I was like, dude, I'll hang out for a little bit, and if you score it, like, because the reason I stopped podcasting for a couple years, both that show and my own show, was because my son was born, and I just didn't know how to. Yeah, he's now 6, and he's
Shout out to him.
Yep, and he has a small passion for podcasting. He doesn't necessarily know what a podcast is, but he knows he likes to talk in front of a microphone while it's recording. So
you're gonna be so fake happy and then pissed when he's a billionaire off of this shit.
It's gonna happen.
I was saying, me and you are still old as fuck trying to get our shit off of Sirius. Sounded like AM radio.
Yeah. But so, and it took too long for him to actually get it on like get that deal worked out. I was like, listen, man, if I'm gonna bail on a show, I can't bail on my own show right now. And he's like, quite honestly, I don't know how much longer that's gonna last either. So yeah, it was a couple months that he got that Sirius XM deal, and I was getting, that was, I think, the only check I got from, that was part of the Sirius XM deal, was for those 3 cents. But yeah, for the 200 episodes that I co-hosted, I would randomly get checks for like $5, $20, whatever it was, for the ads that we were playing,
really
or whatever.
The podcasting Godfather, goddamn, Kev. You bowed down, dog. I didn't know I was speaking of royalty, man. Like, I knew you was dope, and I knew everything was awesome been around the game, and I knew you been around the game, but I really didn't know it was royalty. Shit.
Well,
let me text Al right now and be like, you jealous as fuck, dog. I'm out here.
Well, and this, going back to like what is success, like you've heard me talking about my past and whatnot, and everything is awesome. Is in it's going into its 3rd year. We just celebrated the 2-year anniversary of Everything Is Awesome, and while it's not the most successful show as far as like making money or having
any podcast though?
You're absolutely correct. It's
besides, like,
you has to be.
You
Mark
said
Maron.
it on your past show. Unless you're a comedian, unless you're Joe Rogan,
exactly. Most indie podcasts.
I don't even plan what our shit. Our shit isn't to make money on our podcast. Our shit is our podcast is bringing us more recognition to the blog. You know? What I mean?
And it's also like I've definitely don't have as many listeners as I used to have, but that's true. The download numbers are actually pretty accurate to what they were back with all those old shows. Live listeners were just always there. Like, you'll always have more live listeners than you will downloads. I think at least
you prefer live listeners.
It was with this show. I don't think I would like streaming it live, because this show is supposed to be like
heard me going to the bathroom. So
yeah. That also, like, it breaks up the conversation you and I are having, and it makes it like me and you now have to perform for an audience versus having this conversation that I'd much rather have. No offense to my audience.
I've been saying so many random things, Kev, just to see if you were going to respond right back, and you really do. You're really good at this podcasting shit, dude. I was telling my friend he has a great podcasting voice, but you really are good at this podcasting shit. All right. I'm sorry, Kev. I know I've been derailing this shit.
No, that's what this show
is.
I
feel like, been a great interview so far.
Well, thank you. And that's what this show is. It's known for its going off the beaten path, going off on tangents. So I'm all for it. But yeah, so Everything Is Awesome. Like, I've never felt more successful, and that's because creatively, even though it's just a simple interview show, I just creatively feel like way more happy than I ever have on any of the other shows I did. And that's not a knock on anyone that I've ever worked with. It's just, I get to work, I do it by myself, and I'm the only one that I have to make happy now. So
I tell the truth. There's certain times when we have guests in studio, and I'm like, I don't even want to have a guest. I feel like we're doing. No, it's not what you said. Like when you're in a role and you're in the
Yeah.
groove, you just want to be in that groove.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
yeah.
So we left off talking about the live show that you did a couple days ago, as of this recording.
Oh yeah.
So they contacted you to do a live show. So how did that go? How was your second live show experience?
So, first one, very dope. Shout out to Tattooed Mom. Shout out to Baloney. Shout out to Kev getting beloved by Al and cursed out by Al, all in the same set. And we are always friends with Philly Blind Pig. Shout out to Tom Bear. If you guys don't know, look up Philly Blind Pig. It's award-winning barbecue. He usually does a whole barbecue a month at Dawson Street Pub.
Okay.
He straight up asked us. He was like, "Would you guys want to?" Actually, I came to visit him because he was doing a barbecue in January, and he was like, "I'm gonna put you in contact with the owner." I didn't know what it meant that night. Met the owner that night. He was like, "Hey man, would you guys want? You guys are the podcast." We were like, "Yeah." He was like, "I love you guys. You guys hilarious." Then he's like, "Would you want to perform tomorrow?" I'm like, "Dude, I've never done this shit before." No. And I'm pretty sure when he did that, that was before we even did your live show. So
Yeah, I think so.
So then he was like, "All right, so February barbecue, we'll do that." So we knew we were doing your show, and then we were going to do the February barbecue. We did your show, and I will tell this is 100% the truth. We felt like we killed it. Multiple people tell us we killed it. And then here's what confirmed it for me. My man Kevin Gallagher came up to us at the end of the show and said, "Dude, y'all motherfuckers funny as shit. Where have you been? Told you we just started." And you were like, "Fuck all that. Apply for the Philadelphia Podcast Festival."
Yeah,
And I
definitely.
was like, "All right, word. We must have did a good job."
Yeah.
So-
I did enjoy it.
Yeah, and we heard that from multiple people. The one dude told us he was already subscribing to our podcast. He's like, "I'm gonna binge listen to you guys tomorrow." And we were like, "All right, cool." But so then we said, "All right, cool. We'll do this Philly Blind Pig February barbecue." Dawson Street Pub. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's one of those Manny Young bars where it's really thin, really small bar.
Yeah.
So we do sound check at 2:00, and I have a whole idea for this thing. I said, if I'm gonna do a live show, I'm gonna turn this shit out. We get there at 2:00, nobody's in there. We told everybody the show starts at 3. I'm sure you saw the flyer. I said
Yeah,
3:00. In reality, the show started at 4, but 3:00 was when we were gonna start DJing and shit. Plus, people were black as fuck. I had people calling me in the middle of the live show at Tattoo Moms, asking me, "Yo, pick up the phone, dude. Where you at?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me? I'm performing. Are you kidding me?" But and that's another thing I don't think they understand. You said it best. You may look at it as podcast, and y'all can look at it. We're performing. It's performance art, especially a
100%.
live show. It's a performance art. Like you have to put on a show. If you're not hyped, why the fuck would your crowd be hyped?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think you did a great job of that, by the way. Like,
No, thank you.
When I was watching your show, I was like, Kevin's so hype, he's making me hype and want to crack eggs over my head. So yeah. So we doing the sound check at 2:00. Nobody's there. I promise you, Kev, by 4:00, it's packed out. We DJing, we taking the shit over. We do the whole live show. I'm playing music in between because my whole thing is if I'm doing a live show and we're a food show, I want it to be a party. I want it to be like a barbecue. Like you've been to a cookout before, I'm assuming, Kev. Like I want it to be like that vibe. You know what I mean?
Cool.
So everybody was like, "Oh man, we weren't expecting this. We were expecting this." You've been to multiple podcast festivals, I'm assuming. They can get dry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
No offense to all the shows. I love every single one that I've seen.
all offense if y'all take offense to it. I'm saying, nah, no, all dead ass. But you get what I mean. Like you just, they were expecting a podcast. I love a podcast, but as you know, you've been in this thing for 10 years. People don't think like us. They don't want to hear audio art
Yeah,
sometimes. They need to get fucking stimulated by other shit. So I told one of our bloggers is a DJ. So I was like, yo, play music in between. Let's do all this thing. We made it into a house party. The dude at the end of the day was like, we never had this many people in here for like 15 years. And we were like, yeah, we know. Like we get it.
That's exciting, and
the only problem is you did such a good job, and you reminded me at the end of the day we're supposed to be podcasting. So the quality at Tattoo Moms is phenomenal. You had the big microphone covers, you had all that shit covered. Our shit, people had doors open, people were walking in and out. I had motherfuckers grabbing mics out of my hand, and I'm like, God damn, this audio quality is going to be terrible. And that's what we need to do at the end of the day. You need to be able to have your podcast audio.
Yeah, well, and it's, I mean, I like the idea of making it like a house party, and I'm sure, you know, it took me, so I guess I don't want to say I've lost count, but without looking at not like my live show schedule, I don't know. I think the last one we did in January for the festival was our 8th or 9th live show that we've done.
When you on your last show, you told me you applied for random DC festivals and LA festivals.
Yeah.
My first thought was, he's brave as fuck, because I'm one of the most confident dudes in the world. I think my friends are funny as shit, and I think our show is actually quality as fuck if you actually listen to it. I was so nervous, Kev, before that live show for Tattoo Moms. I almost backed out on you, dude. I was like, you know what, you're on your own. Just because, I never did it before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm sure you've been through it, like the same thoughts I thought. What if they think you suck? What if they don't like you? What if they don't like?
Well,
you know what I mean?
and that doesn't still happens. In January of 2018, it's my 4th festival that I've been part of. 2 Philadelphia podcast festivals, 2 Everything Is Awesome festivals. And I've done a handful of live shows throughout the city, and every single one, it's all. I got butterflies until I step out and
Dude,
do my thing.
If you weren't so, I don't want to say loving, because that's the wrong word to say, but you seriously, you made me feel comfortable because you knew we were new. I feel like you knew we were new. You were like, yo, man, whatever you need, sit down, da da da, and you answered every question I had. Because man, I never did that before, bro. Filming from a studio is way different. Filming in front of strangers.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what I'm glad that there's another show that seems to have a passion for doing this show live, because it's something that I want to see become a norm in Philly. It would be my dream to operate a podcasting comedy theater in the city, where you could, maybe you come and it's a stand-up comedian, but
that's a good ass idea, dog.
It's something that ever since Kevin Smith had his Smodcastle out in LA, I was like, damn, how awesome would it be to have
a good idea, bro.
Like a black box theater for podcasting out here.
That's a good idea.
And I know that the way it would have to work in Philly is you'd have to have comedians, and you would have to do other things there than just podcasting, because it would take a while for it to catch on fire, because right now, live podcasting in Philly, unless you're a big name, like Kevin Smith rolls through here every now and then. Some paranormal podcast rolls through here every now and then. And there's a couple podcasts that roll through Philly every now and then. But other than that, the local podcasters, I don't see it advertised a lot that are doing live shows on a regular basis. And I want to see more of that. I want to see.
So let me ask you this: Dawson Street Pub. I'm thinking like you're thinking, and I actually already told them we would want to throw our own event, and we said we want to have comedians perform. We want to have live live podcasts performing, we wouldn't have bands perform, and we want to make it a whole day. And they said after what we did for them on Sunday, they give us what we want.
Nice.
Would you be down to throw an event with us? Can we put it
Oh,
on wax right now? What's up?
I mean, I'll go on record as saying we can make that happen.
We can. I feel like our powers combined, we can throw something really good, bro.
Well,
like,
we should definitely. It's on air. I've agreed to it on air, so
You agreed to
that's. But and then we can. So that means we have to talk outside of this podcast about it.
that means we have to hang out, Kev.
Yeah, totally. I'm down for it. Man, I love that. I don't even know what we did this for the last hour and 8 minutes.
Wait,
you interviewed me. That's what happened.
Yeah, before you try to go, Black Panther. Did you watch it?
Oh no, I am going. What's today? Wednesday or? Yeah, I'm going Friday nights. My fiance rarely wants to go see superhero movies with me.
It's so good, bro.
And this is one that she wants to see. So I was like, all right, I will wait for you. I will wait to go see it. And I've heard nothing but good things. I cannot wait to see it. I love that it seems to be doing what I was hoping it would do, and it like really give power to like an underrepresented group, you know. And I'm saying that as a white man, so maybe I'm not. Maybe I shouldn't be the one that says this, and it should be you that says that.
Say it again. Say it louder.
But it's I love it.
Here's the thing: if you're not, here's what you're mistaken. If you're not saying it, who is, bro? Like, I need all y'all to step up and say it, because the movie really was that fucking dope. It wasn't fuck superhero movies. It was just a good movie. It was just a good movie.
I've heard that not only did it represent African culture real well, it also like gave power to women too.
Yo, it's so funny you said that. I was just talking to my my cousin, and I was telling him that the reason I thought Black Panther was dope was not only was Michael B. Jordan one of the best villains in any superhero movie ever, because he actually, to me, the best villain is when you make me look at your side and I actually consider it. And you'll know what I mean when you see it. You'll be like, oh, damn, that's not a bad point of view if you really look at it. But it's that and the hold on. I smoked some weed, Kev. Sorry. I'm zoning. But no. It was Michael B. Jordan. It was dope as shit. And the female characters, they were the backbone of the whole movie. Mm-hmm. That was dope to me. You don't see that a lot anymore.
No.
They really made the female characters the strongest part of the movie, because the movie doesn't go without them. And that to me was dope as shit.
Yeah, and I'm so excited to see it on Friday, because I knew I was going to like it. I mean, Marvel I don't think can do anything wrong at this point.
I agree with you. And when I try to disagree, I think about different movies, but I'm like, nah. Justice League be fucking up, but no, Marvel was pretty
yeah. You can screw up a superhero movie if you're DC.
If you're DC, yes.
But Marvel seems to have a pretty good thumb on the pulse of what we want. And I'll agree that you can take a couple Marvel movies and say this is cookie cutter and say that it feels like a comic book movie. I'm okay with that, because I'm not. Some of these movies, I'm literally just going to escape the real world for a little while. But then there's movies like The Winter Soldier, which I think is a really, really good movie. And then
Winter Soldier to me was, I won't say number one, but it was up there.
It's a very good movie. It was
up there.
Yeah,
because like you said, there's elements to that shit. Like
yeah.
If you can, I'm a movie head, so like if you can make me think a little bit with a superhero movie, then it's like, all right,
yeah, that movie was just real special. And then movies like Wonder Woman, that was the one movie DC got right in the last few years here. Yeah. That was just a powerful movie, and I had a great conversation with Casey Spivey on this show, and we were chatting about Wonder Woman, and she said, she asked me, she's like, as a man, like, were you able to kind of get in that head of Wonder Woman and identify with it at all. And I was like, well, obviously not as much as you. Like, you're a female. You're going to identify with it more. But like, that's a movie that like I would be proud to show my daughter and my son and say, this is a hero. Like, you want to be like Wonder Woman,
right.
No matter who you are or what gender you are. Like, this is representing something that we haven't really seen much of in film. And I haven't seen Black Panther yet, but I would imagine that by the time this episode releases, I will have seen it already.
I hope so, because I'm not gonna lie, I thought half our episode was gonna be me and you talking about Black Panther.
No, and I'll tell you what, I mean, we can I'm more than happy to come either do this show again with you to talk about Black Panther, or we can do a special Just Grubbin movie episode, whatever you want to do.
Let's get it.
I'll be more than happy to hop on and talk about Black Panther once I see it.
Ask me what I tried during the live show, though. I got a whole different topic for you.
Wait, what did you try to do during a live show?
Yeah, ask me what I tried during the live show.
What did you try to do during the live show?
I ate black bear.
Black bear?
Yeah. Yeah, bear.
Like,
process that real quick, doggy.
like bear meat?
Yeah, bear meat, man. Yeah.
So like you,
I'm cracking up because I'm picturing your face right now. You was expecting that shit.
No. So like
live show gets real, dog.
So like you actually tried it, or you tried to try it?
Nah, dog. I ate bear.
Oh God. What was it good?
It was good. That's the fucked up part.
Oh wow.
It's gamey, but it's good. It was good. It tastes like beef.
I honestly don't know if there's a better point to end on than you eating black bear. Lauren, give out some plugs. Where can people find you and your show?
JustGrubbin.com, no G at the end, and podcast Just Grubbin. Our social medias, we are Just Grubbin, no G at the end, but you can go on the website, JustGrubbin.com. Again, you can see all of that. And our podcast, again, Just Grubbin. Just search Just Grubbin, no G at the end.
And I will have all and any links that you need for Just Grubbin and
I'm
Lauren.
sending them every link possible.
Yeah, it will all be in the show notes.
Yeah,
show me, but the black bear meat will be in the show notes.
Yes.
That's man, you blew my mind there, and I don't know. Like I said, I don't think there's a better way to end this show. So
yes,
Lauren. Not only can't thank you enough for being part of the Everything Is Awesome.
Man.
Let's Have Cancer, whatever it was called, that festival that I threw back in January. Thank you for being part of that, and thank you for doing this interview and working through the technical difficulties we had.
What do you mean? It was all my fault. I'm here, baby.
All right, thank you, and hey, man, we'll talk to you again real soon.
All right, Kev.
All right, thank you to Mr. Biddle for being a guest on the show. It was a great conversation, podcasting. He gives me way too much credit in this episode for being a podcast guru, or whatever the exact terminology was. But I appreciate all the kind words that Lauren had to say. I appreciate him, last minute being a guest, not a guest, a player on the festival, the one-day festival we did with Everything Is Awesome and Let's Have Cancer. He's a kind soul. You can just tell by the fact that the way he speaks, the way he handles himself. He's got some great like podcasting mindset, business mindset. He's doing some great things in the live podcasting world, and we're hoping to collaborate at least once. So make sure you follow him on all his social medias and check out We're Grubbin. All those links will be in the show notes. For Everything Is Awesome, I am Kev, and you can find us on awesomepodcast.com. We are part of the Core Temp Arts Podcast Network on coretemparts.com. We've been awesome!
Thank you for listening to the Core Temp Arts Podcast Network. To listen to more Core Temp Arts shows, visit coretemparts.com.